Hi everyone, my name is Pumla and thank goodness it's Friday. On today's Ask the Expert, we've got Lauren Davis, who is a clinical psychologist and leadership mental health coach who brings over 20 years of psychological expertise into the world of work. She blends clinical depth with real-world organizational insights to show how mental health is not a side issue, but the foundation of sustainable performance for individuals, teams, and organizations. Lauren translates psychological understanding into practical tools that help people recognize the hidden drivers of burnout, anxiety, and overperformance. She guides individuals, leaders, and HR professionals to lead and live with a greater clarity, composure, and care. Um, Going far beyond surface level well-being, her work often offers a deeper, view of the human mind at work and how to create environment where people can stay well while doing demanding jobs. So everyone, please welcome Lauren Davis and thank you so much for joining us today on our Ask the Expert.
Thank you so much, Pumla. It's so lovely to be here. I'm really excited, and it's a real privilege to be able to share this platform and create more awareness around mental health at work.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm just gonna dive right into it.
Yeah.
Okay, so question one, we have when we talk about poor mental health at work, what does that actually look like in everyday life?
It's a great question, and I think it's an important one because when we think about mental health in general, we think of people that are really sick and not able to
Yeah.
function. And so often people say to me, well, what do you mean about workplace mental health? Because surely people are working, they've got to be mentally healthy. And I guess therein lies the complexity of it, because often the people that are mentally unwell at work, you don't see it.
No.
It's not like they've broken their leg and they're limping. And typically it's masked under more high functioning individuals and behavior. So they might be suffering from a severe anxiety or depression, but it doesn't look like what we would typically expect because they pour it into overfunctioning and overperforming, pushing long hours, saying yes to every single project, being that like A-type overperformer, star achiever. And unfortunately, what happens is the workplace also endorses it because they love that kind of a person because that's the person they can give everything to and everything gets done. Or the person that they can trust with the difficult tasks. And so those are the people that typically end up burning out. And I think what you hear so much when we talk about workplace mental health, we automatically just think of burnout. But actually, I think the term burnout is also it's like an umbrella term. And I think people are more comfortable saying, oh, I'm burnt out, rather than I'm actually depressed, or I'm suffering from a major depressive episode, or I have generalized anxiety disorder.
Yeah.
Those things are still not so acceptable in the workplace, but I can say, oh, I'm burnt out. So when we talk about workplace mental health, we're not seeing, somebody that's just sitting there crying all the time or somebody having panic attacks. That's normally happening much more internally.
So it could be a normally functioning person that's just okay at work, that shows up at work, that does basically everything, but is not doing okay internally.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well put. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
But also, can I ask, does that mean that now, with burnout, anxiety, and depression, do they overlap in some way as to if you are someone that's depressed, you can feel anxious about a few things, not only pertaining to work, but in your personal life as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, if we look at kind of the symptoms of burnout, they're actually
Mm,
describing depression and anxiety. So
mm,
burnout for me is just the term. The behavior
yeah.
we see and the experience people have is a
Okay.
combination of depression and anxiety.
Okay.
So it's definitely part of it. And then,
Mhm.
yes, I always say depression and anxiety are two sides of the same coin.
Okay.
You might have a more dominant leaning. So you might tend to be more depressed and then you get anxious, or
Mm.
you tend to be more anxious and then you get depressed. But they're very common comorbidities,
Okay.
and in the workplace they definitely fuel each other. Because if I'm
Mm.
feeling very depressed, then I get anxious about it because I think, oh, how's it going to impact my work? And I can't, what if they discover it, or what if I can't carry on working? And then if I get very anxious and I feel so wired, and often a big part of like generalized anxiety disorder, for example, or any anxiety disorder, is I'm not good enough. And then, and then we
Mm.
start to feel depressed about that. And then that
Yeah,
impacts our identity. And so we
I
go in
get
this
you.
vicious cycle.
I get you. I think that makes sense a lot.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
thank you for that. On to the next question. It says, what are some early warning signs that someone might be struggling mentally in the workplace? What are
So
the
it's
early
it's subtle. I think it's subtle at first. One would tend to want to go and say, well, it's often sick days and absenteeism and
yeah.
lost productivity. But I think those are once it's more severe. So I think
Mm.
the more subtle ones are um, like a sense of disengagement from the work, just not
Mm.
being as committed, as energized by the work. There can be like a slight reduction in quality of work, in output, missed
Mm.
deadlines. Often it's the person will be complaining of just feeling tired or
Mm.
losing their spark for the work that they have. And
True.
then I think you do get to, more sick days, more
Mm.
unexplained physical ailments as well, because often if we're
Yeah.
not aware that this is a depression or an anxiety, it will
Mm.
manifest as back pain or migraine.
True.
And then also
Mm.
what I've started to notice is often people who are actually suffering from a mental illness at work end up getting physically sicker more regularly with flus, tummy bugs, just because when you're mentally ill, it does affect your immune system as well. So
Oh.
they're more prone to, I'm not saying everybody that gets flu all the time,
I'm
that you're
thinking because I have
depressed.
flu as well, and I'm like, oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
no. I mean, if you've got flu now, it's seasonal, and I mean, I don't know anybody who doesn't have flu right now, but I think it's and I think the important thing with any diagnosis of anything is
Yeah.
it's got to be a cluster of behaviors over a
Okay.
period of time. It's not just one
Okay.
thing. If you say to me, I'm tired
Yeah.
now, it doesn't mean again that you've got depression or anxiety.
Of course.
Um, yeah, Lynn,
Hi,
I
Lynn.
see.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm terrible with this sort of thing, and I probably should keep my mouth shut. But I was just wanting to say, so your signs, warning signs, and things like is very much so like introspective. It's
Mm.
how do I spot it in myself, and which got me
Mm.
thinking is how would a colleague spot that sort of
Yeah.
thing, and that led me
Yeah.
to the irritability. I find it
Yes.
myself. I know when I'm like playing very dangerous, when I start getting very snappy, and when
Mm.
somebody will
Mm.
say to me, why are you so upset about this? And it'll be like, okay, hang on, let me check myself.
Mm.
I just wanted to add that.
Definitely. Thank you. That's
Yeah.
definitely one. And I think often, um, in a way, more acceptable in the workplace to get a bit snappy and snarky because
Mm.
that's almost like more tolerated than somebody that's a bit more withdrawn and quiet.
It's
True.
terrifying how acceptable it is, and
Mm.
encouraged to a certain degree because if you're snappy and irritable, you're getting things moving. It's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
real double-edged sword.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Never really thought
And
about it
then the
like that.
other the other sign, which is for oneself, but also as a
Yeah.
colleague or a manager,
Hmm.
is listening out for substance use. So I'm not saying
Mm.
it's necessarily substance abuse, but somebody that is kind of on that slippery slope will start drinking more than usual, will start
Mm.
smoking more than usual.
Mm.
Um, might start, maybe they smoke the odd joint on the weekend. Suddenly
Yeah.
it's every day. And so it's noticing that for yourself, because those are
Mm.
obviously numbing techniques, but also
Yeah.
as a manager or colleague, you might notice that they're speaking about it more, about their use
Mm.
more, or they start missing Mondays often because they've had a binge on the weekend because they've had to be
Yeah.
at home alone. So
True.
those kind of behavioral things are quite important to listen out for, watch out for in yourself and then in your colleagues. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's really insightful. I think we need to start paying attention to what people say. Sometimes even if it's a joke or it's in
Mm.
passing, just to be
Yeah,
able to know what people are going through and what they're experiencing at that time. So thank you so much
exactly.
for that. Another question is from your experience, right? What are the most common workplace factors that contribute to poor mental health?
Where do I start? The whole thing that we have to work is bad for our mental health, right? No, I think so. So that's kind of one of the key challenges, and I think it is quite systemic in organizations and workplaces. I think that the things that keep coming up are workload. So people are expected to do far more than is what is practically possible. And especially now with the introduction of AI, it's you can just do more with less. So teams are getting smaller, but the human labor is still needed to process what the AI is doing. So I think workload is a really huge impact. The other one is unrealistic targets and expectations and deadlines. Mainly the targets. I think the businesses, it's like they set these high targets each year, and then a high-performing team meets them, and then they're like, oh, wow, well, if they could do this year, well, then maybe they can do that next
Double
year.
it.
And so we double it all the time. So it's this constant like chasing one's tail. I think the 24/7 availability, which just got worse after COVID, but this expectation that you can respond immediately and you must just be on all the time is also fueling it. Poor leadership. I mean, for me, it actually all comes down to leadership, like workplace well-being. It all starts from the top, as we know. And so, a key thing that I focus on is, I always say, be well so you can lead well. So leaders need to be well themselves, because otherwise it's just kind of spilling down. So often it's poor leadership, which I mean comes out in not giving clear directions, not giving proper feedback, not holding people accountable, not training people properly, not caring about their people, not checking in with them as human beings. Communication.
Communication.
So those are and the one thing, and I'm going to repeat this over and over again, is people not taking lunch, which fits into that kind of busy
lunch at the desk.
Taking lunch at the desk.
I'm going to become an evangelist around take lunch, take 15 minutes away from lunch, away from your desk, and just eat, have a break. You're entitled to fuel your body. This thing of people are like, oh, so busy today, I didn't even have time for lunch. That for me doesn't tell me that you're such a dedicated employee. It tells me that actually you're being a bit stupid because you're not fueling your body.
I get you.
I think a lot of it also comes into fear, though. That fear of losing your job, the financial worries, et cetera, which enables you to, or helps enable you to do all the wrong things.
Yes.
Exactly. Because you don't feel like you're doing something wrong. You feel like you're actually expected to sit there and eat at your desk, or expected to be there and not have lunch.
What are the repercussions if you don't? If you don't, please to be the one who can fix it all, do it all, be it all.
True.
Yeah.
True.
100%.
Wow,
and especially in today's climate with the economic uncertainty and lots of retrenchments, people feel like they've got to keep proving and keep showing that they are the dedicated one and putting in the extra hours.
Exactly.
So that fear is huge and
it's
has
just always
a real
there.
big impact.
Okay. I get you. Okay. So what role do managers or leaders and colleagues play in creating a mentally healthy workplace?
As I think I mentioned it in the previous question, I think, managers and leaders play a massive role. In fact, there was a research paper that came out, I think last year or the year before, where they said employees said that their managers impact their mental health 86% more than their partners. So the way they are treated while at work impacts their mental health far more than their own spouse.
That is true.
Which is very scary. And so I think managers, it's in the way that they treat their people and in the way that they communicate. It's in the way that they set targets and workload. And it's often in the way that they set boundaries to their seniors, because often they're also an employee. So they're also managers are also feeling as fearful, feeling the need to prove, needing to meet the targets. to their senior. And so it just goes up the
It
chain.
just keeps on going. Okay.
And so, when I work with leaders, one of the key things are often the kind of key skill, if you want to say, that we work on developing is how to be more assertive with like leading up, and how do you set the boundaries to be able to say, actually, me and my team cannot do this right now. So I'm actually protecting my team by saying this is not going to happen, or if we have to do this, what else can we deprioritize? And most managers are too afraid to have that conversation. So they just say yes, and then that pressure goes onto their team as well. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's also really modeling, doing what they say, not just following their own well-being rules.
Practicing what they say, yes.
Thank you. Because many companies nowadays are speaking a lot more about well-being and boundaries, but the reason it's not actually landing is because managers aren't practicing it. Managers are saying, yes, you must take lunch, but they never take lunch. Or, yes, I get it, you must leave at 5 to go fetch your kids, but they never do it. Or you are sick, go home, or don't come in, you're sick. So they're saying the right things, but then they come to work sick. Or, they are never pushing back or setting boundaries. So no matter how much you say as a leader, if you're not actually doing it for yourself,
they can't follow.
I mean, I've had terrible examples in individual coaching or in workshops with employees where they've told me they will sometimes sit at work till 7 o'clock. And they literally can't do any more work. They're exhausted. So they're not working, but they're playing solitaire on their computer because they just want their boss to see that they're still at the office before. They don't want to leave before their boss leaves. Or even though the boss says, listen, I'm going to send emails at all times, but I don't expect you to respond. It's just so that it can get off my chest. I've heard people say they set their alarm for 1 o'clock in the morning so they can wake up, get onto their emails, answer what their boss has said, so it looks like they've also been online. I mean, that is bizarre behavior to be created.
That is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have one last one so that we don't really take Lynn's time.
Yes.
But this is for your podcast. Okay. So can you share more about the podcast you host, the topics you cover, who is it for, and where can people find it?
Yes, sure. So it's called Beneath the Busy: Insights into Workplace Mental Health, and it focuses on exactly that. What is underneath all this busyness sickness that we are suffering from?
I love that.
What's fueling it from a psychological perspective? Why is it so hard for us to slow down? And it's focused for the general kind of workplace person, but in particular, my target audience is leaders and HR professionals, because I believe those are the two main groupings in organizations that if they are well and they truly understand what well-being is, then that will impact. Obviously, every individual employee has their own personal responsibility to take care of their own well-being, and that's crucial. But from an organizational perspective, I think those two groupings need to be taking care of themselves first. So that's kind of the main focus of the podcast. But the topics I talk about will be relevant to anybody who works, I think.
Yeah. Okay. No problem. Thank you so much, Lauren, for sharing all of that with us. I think from now on, we'll just be more mindful to ourselves, to the people that we work with, to the people that we work for, just to check what is really happening internally, mentally, so that we can be there for ourselves and we can be there for other people as much as we're there for our clients, and the people on the ground. But thank you so much for taking your time to be with us on Ask the Expert. I'm going to give the session to Lynn to tell us more about what she's covering. So over to you, Lynn. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Thanks, Pamela.
Thank you, Lauren. I'm definitely going to be picking your brain on a whole lot of things. I got very excited about it all. But anyway, so good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share a bit more about the work that we do at SADAG, and specifically how we partner with corporates to support employee mental health in a more meaningful and practical way. You've heard employees are navigating high levels of stress, burnout, anxiety, all those personal challenges and still trying to meet that demanding work expectations. And this is where SADAG steps in. We provide more accessible, compassionate, and professional support. Our corporate services are designed to meet organizations where they are. So whether you're starting your mental health journey or looking to strengthen an existing mental health program, SADAG can step in and assist. One of our core offerings is our employee assistance programs. Through this, employees have access to confidential telephonic counseling, emotional support, and of course, referrals. These services are available 24/7, which is crucial. We all know mental health doesn't have a 9 to 5 work system schedule. So our counselors are trained to provide immediate support, helping employees to feel heard, to more calmer, more equipped to cope, and often in those moments when they're feeling most overwhelmed. In addition to this ongoing support, we also offer wellness days, which takes on many different shapes and forms. One of my favorites is an actual wellness day. I find them very impactful, where organizations wanting to engage staff more directly, mostly they're in person because you actually have counselors on site with a table, with the materials. Counselors, employees can then go up to the counselors. They can access brief screenings. They can do one-on-one check-ins. They can psychoeducation, some resources. And it creates that safe, visible space for mental health conversations, which also helps to reduce the stigma and encourages that help-seeking behavior, which I think is so important. Another component, of course, is talks, workshops, webinars, and these are always tailored to organizations' needs, and they can cover a wide range of topics from stress management, burnout, resilience, to more specific areas like trauma, grief, substance use, how to support colleagues in distress, which I think is a very important one, especially listening to with managers, and how do managers support? How do you support and it's not just about being kinder, although I think the world would be a better place if we were all just a little bit kinder, but that's another conversation. But anyway, the goal is not just to inform, it's to equip employees and managers with practical tools that they can use in their daily lives. We also place a strong emphasis on the manager and leadership support, and that links into exactly what Lauren was saying. And also managers are often the first one to notice when something isn't quite right. And it isn't just the irritability, it's maybe as you say, it's they're getting sick more often, whatever the story is. But often managers aren't confident on how to respond. So the trainings and the talks and all are to help leaders recognize those warning signs, how to respond appropriately, because it's not about turning managers into counselors, and how to create psychologically safe environments within their teams. And what makes SADAG's approach so unique is that it's both human, which is for me the winner, and scalable. We are able to support large national workplaces right the way down to your little small handful of people, while still ensuring that every single individual who reaches out receives that compassionate and person-centered care. And that's what I love about SADAG. It's about the person, not about the numbers. We also understand that every organization is different. Some might need a dedicated helpline, others might need more targeted campaigns or ongoing engagement strategies, but we work with each organization to design solutions that are relevant, flexible, and impactful. And the ultimate goal being to make sure that no employee feels alone in their struggle and that support is always within reach. That is the goal. So when organizations, we know, invest in mental health, the benefits are clear. It's not always as clean and dry as improved well-being or increased productivity and all that. But it's about creating that positive workplace culture. Beyond that, it's also about the people. It's about showing your employees that they matter. And that's me. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share with you today. And if anyone wants any more information about how we can support your organization, please feel free to drop me an email. My email address is admin@anxiety.org.za. I'm sure our tech team will post it in the chat, or phone one of the helpline numbers. They will soon tell you how to get hold of me. Thank you, Pumla. Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you, Lynn.
Sorry, I felt I
Thank you,
talked really
Lauren.
fast there.
It was really
Okay.
quickly. It just flew by. But thank you so much for that. I'm sure they'll be able to reach out to you with whatever that they would like to know more about SADAG and some of the corporate wellness events that we have in place. So Lauren, again, thank you so much for today. If you'd like to say anything, I don't know, quickly in the
No,
next
sis. Oh,
2 minutes, 3 minutes, shoot.
I'm going to end with if you listen to my podcast, you'll hear me saying it at the end of every episode, which is,
Mm,
it is okay to not be okay, but it's not
mhm,
okay to stay that way.
mm,
You are not
mm.
alone. Help is available. And I always quote SADAG. So if there's nobody else to turn to, phone SADAG, because there's always a warm body at the end of that phone call. And then lastly, just to be gentle and kind with yourself and each other, because I think it's tough out there. And
Yeah.
I'm going to start adding, and take lunch away from your desk. That's my final thing. 15 minutes, 5 minutes, just stand up, go and eat your lunch and come back. It will do
And
wonders.
hopefully leave your phone at your desk as well, so you actually
Yes.
enjoy and eat it
Have
and
a
enjoy
break.
it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much
Thanks
for
so much
today,
for the
lady.
opportunity.
It was
No
lovely.
problem.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.